Good morning, students. Now let us continue our yesterday's topic, that is DNA replication in eukaryotes, part 2. Yesterday we were discussing about the different possible modes of replication and the evidence for the semi-conservative mode of replication, because the three possible modes were known to us, but it has not been proved experimentally. Only semi-conservative mode of replication has been proved experimentally by Michelson and Stahl's experiment. Now let us proceed towards the semi-conservative mode of replication. So in all the organisms like bacteria, whether they may be prokaryotic or eukaryotic, whatever be the organism, but the mode of replication will be by semi-conservative mode only, and this has been proved experimentally, as we have discussed in the yesterday's class, that is possible modes of replication and the evidence. So evidence has come only for the semi-conservative mode of replication. So the basic rules of replication, let us go through some of the rules of replication. The most primary thing is, it is mode of replication is semi-conservative mode only, and it starts, the process of replication starts on DNA at a point that is termed as origin. So from where it starts the replication process, it is called as origin of replication. In case of prokaryotes, there will be single origin of replication and it is represented as or IC, whereas in case of higher organisms, eukaryotic organisms, that is mode of replication is origin of replication is multiple points. So at multiple points replication starts simultaneously, and so multiple origins of replication will be there, and that will be semi-conservative as well as semi-discontinuous, because one of the strand will synthesize continuously, the other will be in the discontinuous mode. That is why the term discontinuous, semi-discontinuous is used. So semi-conservative and semi-discontinuous. So semi-discontinuous means one strand will continuously get synthesized, called as leading strand. The other one is in the form of fragments called Okazaki fragments on the lagging strand. And the synthesis is always in the direction of 5' to 3', because DNA polymerase needs 3' OH group free. So RNA primer provides the 3' end free for the DNA polymerase to add the new nucleotides. And in case of the rate of addition of the nucleotides is 3000 per minute, and in case of bacteria it is 30,000 per minute nucleotides per minute is the rate of replication. Now the DNA replication machinery involves following things such as DNA polymerases, which constitute alpha, delta, epsilon and gamma in case of eukaryotes. Helicases, as you all know, helicases is the function of helicase enzyme is to open the helix, double helix of the DNA by means of helicases. And topoisomerases, because due to continuous opening of the helicase, it is tension is increased in the twist is increased in the other end of the DNA strand. To remove the tension, topoisomerase will make a nick and it will release the tension. And primase enzyme, the main function of the primase enzyme is to provide a primer to initiate the process of replication. So for leading strand, only one priming function is required, whereas in case of lagging strand, for every Okazaki fragment one primer is needed. So primase always provides a primer whenever the Okazaki fragment has to begin. Ligase is another enzyme because after replication process is completed by DNA polymerase, so all the primers will be removed. In place of those RNA primers, DNA polymerase 1 will fill the gaps, will add the polynucleotides because it has polymerase activity as well as exonuclease. So DNA polymerase 1 will come into action and it will add DNA nucleotides, deoxyribonucleotides, to the in place of primers. Now another enzyme, even after filling those nucleotides, there will be some gaps left, so that will be completed by enzyme called as ligase. Ligase is the enzyme which will function as glue. It will function as glue to seal the gaps left between the consecutive Okazaki fragments. Now when SSB protein is another machinery that is involved in the eukaryotic DNA replication is SSB protein, and that is binding to the single stranded DNA and giving stability to it. So single strand binding protein, these are the protein molecules which will bind to the DNA wherever it is in the single stranded form. And the next eukaryotic replication DNA, that is DNTPs, deoxynucleotide pairs, and Mg plus ions and ATP. So because for addition again energy is required, which is provided by ATP molecules. Now as we have already mentioned that DNA polymerases alpha, delta, epsilon and gamma, these are the main subunits that are involved in the DNA replication of eukaryotes. So let us see what is the function of alpha, that is involved in the initiation. So synthesizes an RNA primer, then adds DNTPs. So alpha unit is meant for RNA primer synthesis and then addition of DNTPs, and it is a complex 4 subunit. 50 kD and 60 kD are primase subunits. DNA polymerase synthesizes 10 to 12 nucleotide RNA primers. So the alpha, along with the help of primase, it will provide primer. So synthesis of RNA primer for leading strand and each lagging strand fragments, because synthesis of RNA primer is required only once for the leading strand, whereas it is needed for every Okazaki fragment on the lagging strand. Now the DNA polymerase delta, it is the principal DNA polymerase and add Okazaki fragments in the lagging strand. It has proofreading activity also. Along with the addition of DNTPs, it will act as a proofreading. It consists of 125 kD and approximately 50 kD subunits. Now the proteins that are involved in DNA synthesis is proliferating cell nuclear antigens. The pCNA provides substrate for DNA polymerase that is substrate will be DNA template only. The parental DNA strand will be the substrate for that. And RPA, replication protein A, and RFC, that is replication factor C, the eukaryotic counterpart of the complex clamp leader of E. coli, that is it loads pCNA and DNA. Origin recognition complex is another protein that will help to identify the point where the actual replication has to start. So it is a multi-subunit protein which binds to the sequences within the replicator, interacts with two proteins CD6 and resulting in loading the MCM complex on DNA. So what is MCM complex? It is a mini chromosome maintenance complex that is a heterohexamer. That means it is made up of 6 subunits. That is why it is called as heterohexamer. That means it is this complex is made up of 6 molecules which are of different origin, and it is ring shaped replicating helicase. Once the MCM protein have been loaded onto the chromatin, ORC and CD6 can be removed from there. So once this MCM binds to the chromatin, ORC and CD6 will be released. Now ligase, the class of enzymes, this is a group of enzymes. Ligases is the group of enzymes that catalyze the formation of alpha phosphodiester bond between the two DNA chains. So because within the DNA, double-stranded DNA that is newly synthesized, due to the removal of primers, the RNA polymerase will add the nucleotides, but there will be some gaps left, and to fill those gaps, alpha phosphodiester protein bonds has to be formed. That function is done by ligases, a group of enzymes called as ligases. So these are responsible for filling the gaps within the DNA strands. So this will form a will function as a glue in within the two DNA chains. This enzyme binds to OH group or at 3' end of the DNA strand to phosphate group at the 5' end of the other DNA strand. So in this way it will make a link between the 3' end of one strand and 5' end of the other strand. So linking the two fragments and completing the replication of the region of lagging strand, and it is shown in the diagram. So 3' OH group from one of the DNA strand or one of the Okazaki fragment, and 5' OH group of another Okazaki fragment, 5'. Phosphate group of the other Okazaki fragment. It will make a bond between those two, and that bond is called as phosphodiester bond. So that can be represented in the diagram. So after and for this function, DNA ligase utilizes some energy from the ATP. During this process, that is ATP will be relieving the energy by breaking itself into AMP and PPI. Now the 3 stages replication process has got 3 stages. The stages are mentioned as initiation, elongation and termination. For initiation, again whatever the mechanism we have discussed, the same thing will be repeated here, but in the form of 3 different stages. So what are the sequence of events that take place during initiation, and what happens during elongation process and termination process. So during the initiation, protein binds to the origin of replication, while helicase unwinds the DNA helix, and 2 replication forks are formed at the origin of replication, because by opening the unwound portion, that means double stranded portion, it will give the appearance like a bubble. So that is called as replication bubble, and that will, from both the ends, it will move forward in the opposite directions. And if you take half that, the replication bubble, it will be giving the appearance like a fork. So from the origin of replication, 2 replication forks are formed, and that will proceed in the opposite direction. So the process of DNA replication is bidirection. So from both the replication forks, it will proceed in opposite directions till the completion of the. During elongation, a primer sequence is added with the complementary RNA nucleotide, which are then replaced by DNA nucleotides. So for elongation purpose, leading strand continuously gets synthesized. Only once it is required, the priming function, whereas for on the lagging strand, for every Okazaki fragment, it needs 1 primer. So to accomplish this, initiation is partitioned into temporarily discrete steps. So pre-replicating complex formation during G1 phase. So because in the cell cycle, G1 phase comes first, and activation of pre-RC, that is replication complex, by CDK and DDK enzymes in S phase. So GN phase is followed by S phase. So initiation of DNA replication is now divided into discrete steps, and that will take place in 2 different phases. That is, one step of initiation originated in the G1 phase of the cell cycle, whereas the next step continues in the S phase of the cell cycle. Now cell cycle regulation, because as you all know, as we have already discussed in yesterday's class, cell cycle, for every eukaryotic cell, there is 24 hours. In 24 hours they will divide once. All the eukaryotic cells, they divide once in 24 hours. So mitosis will take place only within 1 hour. It is a 1 hour process, whereas 23 hours is a gap between. So one mitotic cycle to other mitotic cycle, whatever the gap is there, that is called as interphase, and that is divided into 3 phases, and that is called as G1 phase, S phase and G2 phase, and then followed by mitosis. So how it gets regulated? Now cell cycle regulation, how it gets regulated during the whole interphase and during the process of replication. G1 phase of the cell cycle, there are low levels of CDK activity. So during G1 phase, or the first phase of the cell cycle. Here the activity of CDK proteins are at low rate. This allows for the formation of new pre-RC complex, that is a replication complex. So it will allow the formation of pre-RC complex, that is prior the replication starts, it forms a complex structure that is allowed during the G1 phase, and during this the remaining phases of the cell cycle, high levels of CDK will be there. So at G1 phase only the CDK level, CDK protein level will be low and pre-RC formation is possible, and during the other phases CDK levels will be elevated, and this inhibiting the new pre-RC complex formation during the other phases, because the levels are elevated for CDK proteins. So due to the elevation in the CDK protein, the new pre-RC complexes cannot form, because during G1 phase the level of CDK protein is low. That is why pre-RC complexes are formed. Whatever the number of pre-RC complexes are needed, that will form during G1 phase only. At the transition of G1 stage to S phase of the cell cycle, the S phase specific cyclic dependent protein kinase CDK and DBF4 kinase DDK transform the pre-RC into active replication fork. So whatever existing pre-RC, that is replication complexes are there that is formed during G1 phase, that will be transformed to active replication forks during S phase of the cell cycle. The effect of CDK activity on pre-RC formation can be represented in the diagrammatic way also. Pre-RC formation is allowed during G1 phase where the CDK activity is low. So when CDK activity is low, here in the diagram you can see pre-RC formation is allowed. In the next diagram you can compare this, no pre-RC formation, and now CDK activity high, new pre-RC formation is inhibited, whereas existing pre-RC activation takes place and it continues the replication fork. So this is how it regulates. So formation of pre-RC complex is allowed only when the CDK activity is low. When it is high, no pre-RC will form, and new CDK, that means when levels of CDK protein are elevated, new pre-RC complexes cannot be formed, but existing pre-RC complexes can be activated to continue the replication, to activate the replication fork as shown in this diagram. Now what are the steps during the formation of pre-RC complex? So you can see a replicator region, the region where the replication has to start at the origin of replication, ORC. So recognition of replicator by the eukaryotic initiator ORC complex. So ORC complex is the complex which will bind to DNA and it will identify where the actual origin of replication has to take place, where it has to begin the begin the process of replication. So in the diagram it is shown, ORC complex will come and bind to the DNA double helix. Once ORC is bound, it recruits two helicases, helicase loading proteins CDC6, cell division cycle 6 protein, and CDT1, that is chromatin licensing and DNA replication factor 1 protein. So these two proteins are recruited by ORC, that is origin of replication complex. Now that will come and bind to the ORC complex, and once ORC complex bounds to DNA double helix, these two will come and join the complex. ORC and binding proteins recruit eukaryotic replication protein, that is helicase and MEM2 to 7 complex. So MEM complex is again joins the ORC complex from both the sides, and instead of the pre-RCs that are formed during the G1 phase are only activated to initiate the replication after cell passes from G1 phase to S phase of the cell cycle, because once this complex is formed, and this complex formation takes place only in the G1 phase. So because the CDK levels are low, and this complex formation is possible in the G1 phase. Once the cell is transformed from G1 phase to S phase, the formation of replicating complexes is not possible. So pre-RCs are not possible. New pre-RC formation is not possible, but already existing PRCs, that is existing replication complexes, will be activated to proceed in the form of a replication fork. Now the formation of pre-RC complexes during G1 phase only will help the DNA and the process of replication to proceed when the cell enters into the S phase. So new pre-RC complexes formation is not possible during S phase because of the high levels of CDK proteins. Phosphorylation of these proteins results in the assembly to add the additional replication proteins at the origin and the initiation of the replication at S phase. So phosphorylation and the initiation of replication continues in the S phase. These new proteins include 3 eukaryotic DNA polymerases. So then converted to the active CMG, that is helicase during S phase, and once DNA polymerase A and primase synthesizes an RNA primer and briefly extends it, thus initiation of replication starts. So RFC, that is replication factor C, recognizes the primer template junction and loads the pCNA proliferation cell nuclear antigens at these sites. So in the diagram you can see the sliding clamp and the clamp loader, that is pCNA plus replication factor C, that will hold the DNA double helix, and it will not allow the DNA to fall the replication complex. So in this mode, the whole complex is formed and it starts the initiation. So once the replication complexes, pre-replication complexes are initiated in the G1 phase, that will continue in the S phase in the form of a replication fork, and the rest of the things we will continue in the tomorrow's class once we have completed the up to the initiation. So once the initiation is over, that will proceed and continue in the process of elongation. That will be continued in the